Okay, we're live.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Ronchero and Sang Lucci here, live with you guys to do a little day trading this morning. And in combination, what we're looking at is I like to use technical analysis and levels to look for change in tape. I cannot read tape as well as Lucci. He is the one who taught me how to read tape, and my original mentor taught me how to use levels. So the combination of using levels and looking for change in tape is what has, over the years, made the biggest difference in my trading. So this morning I asked Lucci to come on, which he graciously has done, and we're going to look at we have names that we typically wind up at some point during the day either considering or trading, and we find ourselves either long or short the same thing often. And when we do, I like to find those spots on a chart where I think I can find an edge in tape. And today I want to see if we can do that together. And I think that we have a nice opportunity here this morning to look at downside. So what I like to do is I like to rip through the stocks that I'm looking at for opportunities, which I'll do right now. And one of the things that I'm looking at right here, right now, just off of the bat, is the SPY. So the SPY right now with a little bit of a gap down from where it closed yesterday. You had Netflix earnings, which are going to have a little bit of an impact this morning on it, at least in the morning, for some sentiment. And to me, it looks like downside. So if I look at SPY is just trading, hovering above its 8-day exponential moving average. So if it were to be a down day, my thought, what I would look for in terms of targets are several things. One is the 8 EMA being a decent target area for, hey, is this going to be a spot where you can get a touch and you can get a bounce? Are there going to be some algos written there? Is it a spot where you just have complete selling? And then what's the next area I'm looking for? Well, the 21-day exponential moving average plus the year-to-date anchored volume weighted average both line up around 407 and a half. So for me, target wise, I'm looking for like that 411 and a half down to that 407 and a half area. And that's my thought for at least the morning. And that's what I would be looking for from a downside area for the SPY, either to check up at and take a pause, and or does it bounce there? So that's my thought off of the morning, and then some of the other things we use would be the high frequency trader numbers. Does that have an influence on what we're looking at right now? That's indicated a down cycle. So things just from a technical standpoint look like they have an opportunity to cool off. If I look at the cues kind of right, same thing, an area of technical not importance, but of technical significance. So what am I looking at? Well, the volume, the anchored volume weighted average price from its all-time high, and a Fibonacci retracement level, it all lines up there. And my point to all of that is not to say this is like these are the magic numbers you need to look for, but what I do like to say is that if stocks like to go to these areas and it repeats itself. So if it repeats itself again and again and it lines up with these other things we're looking at, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think those are areas of opportunity for trades, whether that be to the long side or the short side. They're opportunities for trades. If I look at Google, same thing, sitting right on the 21 EMA. If I look at Tesla, guess what? It's opening lower. This little mint green line is the anchored volume weighted average price from the pandemic. I mean, these things they're not freaking coincidence. They're there for a reason. ENPH made it to a 50% Fibonacci retracement area. It's peeling off. Same thing. That looks like a nice short. Amazon sitting right on the 8 EMA. Looks like a nice short. Goldman came right up to the 200 moving day average, the 50, a year to date anchor, all of that, and then just pulled back. And this morning, trading below the 8. That looks like a nice short. JP Morgan, same thing, right up to a year to date anchor, peeling off. Schwab, right up to the 21 day, it's kind of hold and serve. That looks like it might be a nice call right. Um, Blackstone, right at the 200-day moving average with a gap up. That looks like a nice short. I mean, the semiconductor industry, the Sox looks like a good short. Cirrus right back down to the bottom of that gap when it had that news about Apple and the chips being in the phones. Looks like a nice short. Nvidia looks like a nice short. AMD looks like a nice short. I mean, are you getting the drift? Like they all look like good shorts if they don't bounce here. This is
Right.
also a good spot for them to potentially bounce. So I like the short thesis. If we don't get bounce right here, Boeing, one of my all-time favorites for
Yeah.
trading iron condors. I mean, we trade the daylights out of Boeing, and it drives people nuts because they try and trade it directionally, and it's the
Yeah.
wrong trade. The
It's
right
the
trade
wrong
on
trade on
Boeing
Boeing. I've tried to
totally
trade
is.
directionally in Boeing so many times. I've gotten
Can't do it.
smugged.
No, and they were out there buying calls yesterday, and usually when they, whatever side they come in and you see sweeps on, you're like, I probably can take the other side on that. So Lockheed, man, is this thing strong?
Oh
So
yeah, lucky.
and this has been I've traded this in my bigger account, and all I've done with Lockheed is waited for moving averages, and I've given myself a little bit of time, and it just always continues to move higher off of those moving averages because from a technical standpoint, that's what it's telling me to do. I'm not making it any more complicated than that. Caterpillar, I keep up here just because a lot of people are interested in it. Look at that, right to a Fibonacci retracement area, and it's pulling back. So Costco stuck in a range similar to Boeing. You can trade iron condors on it. Domino's, um, it keeps trying to fill this gap. It's stuck, and it's stuck on all these technical areas. So this one's a little harder to trade because the bid ask spreads and the options are harder. And of course, here we are on Netflix. This looks like a nice short from a technical standpoint. It's breaking down from a fundamental standpoint. The earnings are out. Can it gap and keep going, or is it gap down and is it good for a pop? I think there's a trade there today. mRNA, I am short equity on mRNA yesterday from 143 and a half. So that's what I got going this morning.
Um, it's a much cleaner way of of looking at tape because you don't have to, you're not looking at it all the time, right? You're not looking at the same name over and over and over and over and over and marrying yourself to an idea like I am. You got a bunch of names and you're just kind of you're using tape at a certain level where it's the most important, of course, because that's where you need to justify if you're going to do the damn thing or not.
Right.
Um, or you need to hedge or, all this kind of other stuff. So let's what are some of your big ideas today?
Well, I like this Tesla for further breakdown, and I
Uh-huh.
think this Netflix is going to have enough volatility in it that if this thing doesn't bounce, this has room to the downside. And just from a technical spot, here's the low and here's the high. So if I think that Netflix is you know coming in,
Hmm.
what would be some target areas that I would look at? There we go. So you're going to open right here at a Fibonacci retracement area, and that's what I
Hmm.
mean. That's not coincidence. This repeats itself again and again and again. So
Right.
if it pulls back further, my target would be this 357, sorry, 317 and a half. If it wants to bounce back up, the 50. So I kind of like this, but I mean, we've had such a nice run in so many things. If things are going to peel off and they
Yeah.
can't bounce, I like things for a flush. That's
Yeah.
I don't want to make it any more complicated than that.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Could be that easy. I think top names for me with that would be that Nvidia,
Yep.
and a couple other names. Um,
You're like the short on GME, right?
yeah. So I got locates for all of these things. I like the short on GME. I like the short on AMC and the BBBY. BBBY I guess has some bankruptcy news talk or whatever. It's been popping the last couple of days, so I'm kind of fading this. And then the AMC hasn't really been able to break $5 this morning here. It looks interesting. So just kind of feeling it out here, getting the locates ready to go, just in case I want to get in this.
Yeah, and as I just look at a couple of things here, again, I'm not I don't make predictions
Yeah,
about
yeah,
where
yeah.
price could go. All I'm looking at is, hey, is this a reasonable area for me to set an alert? And if I can set an alert, and if I notice change in tape, do I have an opportunity? So
Right.
I like to go about it that way because it's too hard for me to do what you do because you are really good at getting in there and just focusing, hey, I see an opportunity in tape. Whereas for me, it's like if I can find the area that I think it's going to change, it just for me it just makes it easier mentally to engage in those
Mm.
spots.
So how much? What are you looking for tape to change? You say that quite often. So what is it? What is it actually that you're looking for
Well,
when it?
all I'm looking for is, hey, let's. So, for example, if you're expecting a down day, right, and I
Mhm.
get to an area where I think there could be some change, are there buyers that are going to step in? Is an algo going to
Right.
fire in that spot, right?
Right.
That's so all I'm looking for is,
Right.
do I see it? Can I see it? And if I can is there an opportunity there for me, at
Right.
a minimum, to scalp it, right?
Right.
And then oftentimes what'll happen is like I'll listen to you and I'll have you up on Twitch in
Yep.
the trading the post room, and you'll find an opportunity that we're also interested in,
Right.
like Tesla's one, right? And I got to get the right ticker up there. And oftentimes I'll hear you talking about, okay, I'm in this, you're watching tape, and then you and I will be on the same page direction wise, and then you'll get out of a trade and I'll be telling the room, listen, I think there's more to this trade
Yeah.
because I've got a specific level up. And
Yep.
oftentimes what happens is we get that level, or we get close to that level, and we squeeze a little bit more out of the
Oh yeah.
trade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why the rolling is key, especially on these runaway names. I mean that EMPH. I was long the overnight. I was long the overnight. So I started to get long at 210. Obviously I got in too early. Kept dip buying, and we closed basically at 210, gapped up the next day, and then just shot 10 points up. I covered it at like 222 or something, and of
Uh-huh.
course it was another 6 7 points on top of that.
Yeah, but this has been for me, and I like ENPH, and I like to trade ENPH at levels. We
Yeah,
were similar, but we were late to the trade, and I was telling everybody in the room, hey, listen, you've already missed like where the quote
a
unquote
chunk of
bottom
it.
is, right?
Exactly.
So when you go in there, you've got to pay attention at these levels, because these on ENPH, I mean, just check this out. Look
Yeah.
at the 50-day moving average. It hit this back in March, like to the penny, and
Mm.
and then it faded, and the same thing happened the next day, and then 2 days later, the same thing, right? And then it started bumping up against. I mean, look at that, one, two, three, four touches in 6 days, like you can't ignore that. You can't. If you do, then you're just missing an opportunity. If you use the level to look for a change in tape, or to say this is the behavior of the stock, and I have an opportunity in a specific area, I think you leave opportunity on the table. I think you miss out.
Mm. Indeed. Indeed. 100%.
And
That's
I know that shit drives you crazy.
oh
So
oh my God,
you're
crazy.
like, fuck your levels. That's dumb. I'm like, okay, I get it, but I got to find a spot where I think there's opportunity.
Yep, yep, absolutely. What's your sign today if we are not a short, I guess?
If we're not a short, I think that, okay, and here we go. This is what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for this, either I think bounces quickly, or we start to move higher.
Yeah,
All right, so I'm going to switch to a 1 minute chart. Now, this is where I start to do a little bit more, it's a little bit more guesswork, but like this Netflix, I actually like the Tesla more from a short perspective. So I already know, and I
yeah.
use anchored VWAP. I don't have an event yet. Yeah, go away. So what am I looking at on a 1 minute chart? I've got a huge gap overhead. Um, so if I'm going to take short here, I just want to take a look at what else do I have that can help me. Now this thing right off of the bat to me is looking very oversold, but I still like the flush opportunity on it. This is the tape I'm using over on Toss, and I'm just looking to see if I can find something that is showing me that this is going to continue in that direction. Technically, it's kind of broken. So
Yeah,
if I can,
this Nvidia just kind of went program though.
yeah,
That Tesla looks weak
yep,
for now, right off the
for
open
now,
though.
exactly. And oftentimes, what happens too is if I jump in too early,
Yep,
I find myself getting caught. So I
yep,
like to wait a few minutes. I don't like to just go
absolutely,
right off of the open.
absolutely.
Let's take a look at this Nvidia. Um, Other things that I look at that help give me some clues. It's not a do or die. On the charts, I like to use the CCI and the RSI. They're simply ways of saying, hey, it's overdone to whichever side I'm looking at. And then this bottom left hand corner, this kind of shows me when orders are just being abandoned from limit orders, and these guys are just going market. So right now you're getting a bounce. It's showing oversold short term. This is a 1 minute chart, but is it going to hold? I think I need a few minutes of
Right,
this shit coming out before I just jump in and say, here's my trade. But the
absolutely.
Nvidia, I like short, and it's a Wednesday. I usually look at, and I don't have to rush myself on some of these trades, but Boeing is a great condor. So this I'll definitely, I'm it's back in a spot where I am interested, and I don't care if it makes a move directionally
Yeah,
because the beauty of the condor is I can convert either leg to catch that move, that direction, which is why the trade works so well.
nice. Here's your Nvidia squeeze market here.
Do you ever try and catch this type of a squeeze? Like that's a little gap fill, right? So I would look for change in tape
Look for
here.
the entry here. Yep,
Yep.
yep, yep.
And what do I have? There's nothing on the board. You got to be kidding me. See, that's the thing about the sweeps too. Is the sweeps are just they're not definitive. They just give you an idea of
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
activity the same? Are they on the same page, right?
yeah. Did you see the WAL earnings, the WAL earnings? This was a regional bank.
No, the regional banks are just that's nice though. That's helpful because that's going to help other little guys like this, right?
Yeah,
Or hopefully, like I don't want this. The world doesn't need these things going out of business.
yeah.
As much as they want to hate on, like it's not the depositor's fault, right? It's the guys running the show. This, in my opinion, is overdone. It is in a downtrend, but if you're gonna, of these banks that are out here, I think this one is overdone. This one is an opportunity for a longer term hold to the upside. But I'm not taking that. I know there are traders in my room that have Schwab long. CrowdStrike. This is a name we're long term long on it, and we've been long term long since there's a director buying 60,000 shares at an average of 97 and a half back in January. So we're long from down in here. We've already rolled once. It filled this little gap nicely, and we're looking for it to break out of this range. If it can break out of this range, we can roll it again. But we're about 90% paid on the long position, so it's at this point is basically a free position to the upside.
I've started small position on GME. I got about 5,000 shares short, and then I got about 20,000 shares short on AMC.
So
Looking to get freaking
in
100,000
AMC.
of
So
these.
this I like your GME short looks good from here. From just technically, it looks good. And the other thing I like about this is and I know you don't follow a lot of the same shit that I like to say,
Hmm.
but I mean, this is it's gaps fill 80% of the time. 80% of the time after they fill, they usually would go the opposite direction. So I mean, this 18 and a half is a nice looking target from a short
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah, yeah. I like that 20 break, so we'll see what happens.
AMC. I mean, how much more do you think you can get out of it? Do you think it's worthless?
AMC, I mean, these days, once BBB, do you remember that day that BBBY went to like $6
Yeah.
and like
Oh
squeezed
shit.
everybody?
Yep.
This was like in February. After that day, I located 50,000 shares every day and I shorted every day and I made like 10 to 20 cents every day on it. That's all I was looking for. And it was
I
just a
mean,
good way to make, 2 to 10 grand off that trade every single day
so 3 minutes ago they're saying Chapter 11 bankruptcy preparations
for
for BBBY.
for BBBY exactly.
Yeah,
And they usually pop off that news.
I see. I see. I see. I mean, if you're going to try and get a pop off of it anywhere, this is a good spot.
Yeah, I think this Nvidia is green, right? It's
Yeah.
pretty much there.
So that was that bounce. Um, and there's that little tiny little gap fill.
Yep.
So are you starting to see some change in tape? I think this is a good spot. This is as good of a spot as any to look at
Yeah.
a short. And if it
Yeah,
doesn't
100%.
work, yeah.
Yeah, I bought 10. I bought 10 of the 270 puts.
All right, I'm going to jump in there with you.
And then I'll just cover here if the SPY does something crazy.
You jumped in the 270s.
Yep, I got
What what
270s.
what do you filled out on that?
Buck, buck 47.
All right.
So
All right, me
basically right
too.
here. Basically right here.
All right, I'm in there with you.
I mean, again, if this Tesla gets back to lows, Google and all this kind of stuff, we'll start to see the market come in.
Yeah.
What do you think of are you selling premium these days? Are you doing any of
Yeah,
that? I
yeah.
mean,
Well, so
my bad.
I
Let me
will
let me let me change my question though. Are you
go
selling
ahead.
SPX premium?
No, I
Okay,
don't like selling
you don't do
SPX
that.
premium. I look for individual names to sell
Got it.
premium
Got it.
because
Got it.
I get better performance that way. It's hard
Hu-
for me to trade SPX.
Yeah, it's fucking hard. It is indeed quite hard.
So this is the little area on NVIDIA that I would look for to challenge. I mean, so right here,
Mm.
if this breaks above this 277
Yeah, I don't like
level,
it.
I gotta peel this off.
Yep. I dumped half.
Okay. But this is also the spot where if it reverses,
Hmm.
So I would just take a look at.
That's the gap. I think that's the gap fill right there.
It is. All right. So Lucci, you have tape up on Nvidia.
Yeah, yeah, got it up.
What are you looking at and for on this tape?
Um, it's more the character of these bids. Like, there's no big size here moving this thing around.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of wild ass activity. If this thing gets below 276, then we know that was kind of just a program up, pull people in long,
Yep.
and then just kind of dump it. But at the same time, you got no direction from the indexes either. So
Yeah, they're just wishy washy.
yeah, there's a 2,000 share seller, but 2,000 shares is fucking nothing.
Right.
That is absolutely nothing. So this is also a heavily program traded name, man.
Mm-hmm.
Heavily. So very infrequently do you see days where a large seller is just working this thing down. We haven't seen that kind of day in a long time, man.
Right.
All right, I'm going to add back my size here. So I still only have 10. If this thing starts trading under, if I start to see on the tape that they're holding 276 down, sellers are starting to take control, then maybe I'll add. Maybe.
Maybe. All right. So
maybe.
here's what I like to do is I like to put little alerts in because sometimes if I sit there and just
Yep.
watch without
Yep.
having a thought, I can do some stupid things. So if I set some alerts, it keeps me from doing that.
Nice,
And I
nice,
want this thing to break down. So I've got to
nice.
kind of set my risk parameters here.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the edge of the bandwidth for me to hang around in this thing.
Yeah,
So I'll keep an eye on tape.
there's spy, small breakdown. Small. Very
And
small.
sometimes this thing just doesn't break down like it does in on the spy.
Yeah.
It does its own thing sometimes.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. You'll see Netflix doing that. Netflix loves that. Take a look at Netflix, by the way.
Yeah.
317 on that Netflix here. So there's weakness in
Oh yeah.
some
Oh
of
yeah.
these other names. Just hasn't filtered over to NVIDIA yet. AMD also looks similar to NVIDIA right now, so it's almost like we may be picking the wrong name. Check out Google, right? So if we were to pick a Fat Man name, we might be in the wrong name.
Okay, that's fair. And I don't mind switching.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to mark this. If this thing can catch a bounce back up to here, I want to be crossing up.
I sold some SPX calls far out of the money here. I'm just going for 50 cents here. That might be a little too early on that one though.
All right, I got to consider taking this thing off now.
Was it 277? Oh yeah. All right,
So,
I'm out.
yeah.
I'm out. I'm gonna pull this off. That shows you again the
Yep.
strength of these names. The strength of these names. But at the same time, it's a strange day here from Fat Man. You're getting a couple of names here that are getting bid, while others are not.
All right, so I got out of that. And again, oftentimes what happens to me too is you get this little gap fill in this little area and sometimes
Yeah,
these little spikes they can oftentimes be your area of where you should have been shorting as opposed to being aggressive in a spot
absolutely.
like here.
But the
So
beauty of
it's
trading is that we can take this loss, and if it's a real move still, we can come
jump
back
right
in,
back in. Yep.
and it ain't no thing.
Yep.
It ain't no thing. I'm gonna try to pull up another name here that I'd like to short. I mean, shit. What do you think about this Netflix?
I like I like the idea.
Yeah,
So um, I want to look for this little area right in here. So this somewhere between 320 and 321 to see if there's hey is it do they step in and start shortening the shit again there?
right.
So let me pull this up.
I'm gonna go with some meta. I bought 25 of the 215 puts on the meta.
Okay. Oh, that's a good spot. All right, let me pull up the daily here real quick. Okay, so you got a gap, the 8 EMA. That's a nice looking short. I don't normally trade meta if I'm looking
Mm,
for just spots like there to there is the high. So you're already at an area where you're looking for it to peel off and come back in. And
right.
the downside is nice. You got the as a target kind of that 210 and then 200 or 201 area as targets.
Yeah. But this tape is still very meh.
Oops.
And as long as Spy can't sell here, they ain't gonna touch these Fat Man names yet.
All right, so Netflix, I want to come back and take a look at this because they're giving it that pop that I'm looking for.
Okay.
So is it in a
What do you got?
spot where I can
19?
short it
Yep.
now? Right.
320.
So that's aggressive. This is a little bit in this
Yeah.
321 area is a little bit more reasonable from a can I short it spot. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah. That moved five points from the low there.
Yep.
Incredible. overall, I like I like the short here, but it's kind of meh. It's
Right.
kind of meh, and
Well,
tape
it's
is
already got its
very
gap.
meh.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. So if I jump back over to the Netflix, it's like, do I have a spot? Can I short this?
Let me take a look at that.
Not
Oh,
quite
nice,
ready.
321 and a half. You might be able to
Right.
scalp this thing a little bit.
Um, what kind of? Where's there a ton of volume at? I mean, 315s might give you a good scalp. The spreads, like, if you want to scalp this though, I don't like that spread. Like 15 cents. That's
Right, right. That's a hell of a squeeze though, man. It's a
yeah.
hell of a squeeze. This meta
Yep.
just did the same thing,
Guess
and
what Spy doing?
market's barely moving. We're
Yeah.
moving one, two handles here.
And I don't see any significant sweeper activity.
No, no. Um, looks like some gold dip buyers. Yeah.
Hey guys in the TTP room, what's HFT doing right now? Somebody give me a little blurb on HFT. See if that gives me any reason. I do want to reach. I want to short this Netflix. And listen, the other side of the there's nothing wrong with the other side of the trade too. I tell the guys in my room all the time, if you see the opposite of what I see and you like that, trade it, right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, this meta's dead. It's a dead tape here. This Apple is going for the gap. It's going for the gap.
I'm
So
reshorting this Netflix. We're not reshorting it. I'm shorting it for the first time.
nice, nice.
We'll see this little spot right here. I got to just look at getting out of this thing again. This 322 and a half area. I've got to look at that as a spot to say I'm wrong, and that shit happens all the time.
All right, here's another spy attempt at some lows. I highly doubt we break, but
Waiting move up to yep. Okay, so road Nvidia, and that's another really good idea in my opinion.
what?
If you can't catch a short, can you write it?
Can
Because
you
what
write it? Yeah, yeah,
if you can write it, you at least leave yourself the opportunity to fix it if it goes against you. You can
right.
convert it and turn and move it directionally your way
Yeah.
right now.
Crypto
So I'm in
here,
these.
crypto
Go
here,
ahead.
small bounce.
Oof, this thing is it's too hard for me to trade that. I don't know what I'm doing over there.
This is shit tape here.
See, it's a conundrum, isn't it? Like
Yep.
you've got
Yep. I'm long this swing KRE, so that's actually starting to work right now. I have no idea why. I had a feeling in my head this morning. I was like, yo, what if they sell techs and start buying this regional shit banks and they start buying all this stuff? Like, what if that actually happens today? I'm like long this KRE for May, for out to May, and I'm underwater on it at the moment. But obviously that news came out on Wow last night with the decent earnings, so does that mean I can finally get some relief on this freaking KRE? Who knows? Banks have been trading poorly, in my opinion,
mm-hmm.
except for JPM, of course. Like, look at JPM today. It almost traded back the gap already. There's a good amount of stuff here that already traded back the gap here.
I know. So that's my question is are
You know?
these good spots to short? So
Yeah.
I'm in this these Netflix 317 and a halves from 465. So
Yeah.
if this and this is where I start to look at do it? Can I see something on tape that allows me to stay in this trade? I use a couple of things like these anchored VWAPs, and what these things do is these just tell me, can I find an advantage in tape in these spots? So now I'm looking for, can I stick with this trade? Do I see anything here that's going to let me stay in this trade, or do I need to just peel this off and keep my profit? And I don't see anything. You give me any indication.
Right, right, exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's where I'm like, hey, okay, Lucci, check my sanity here.
Right,
Are you seeing the same thing I am on the tape?
right. I'm gonna just book this friggin' meta here for break even because I just don't like this shit. I have 20 left. I'm long from $2.05 to options trading 212 bid. Just looks like shit though.
This is your meta.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks like it wants to peel in, huh? Or come in more if it doesn't bounce in this area.
Yeah, yeah. That was my idea.
You could get a flush here.
So let's see what happens. There you go.
Yep.
The KRE. Take a look at this thing. Let me know what you think of this KRE. Shit.
Okay, let me jump on the KRA.
I got a freaking 500 lot of this out to May.
And you're short this the KRE?
No, no, I'm long.
You're long, you're long. Actually, I like the idea. And the reason I like it,
Mm,
Nvidia's crossing up again, huh? Okay. The reason this Netflix, by the way, oh, it just looked like it was about to work. The thing I like about this is I think that this is just way overdone. I
yeah,
mean, the technicals say no, it's just going to stay down here. I get it, but the only way people make money in these freaking banks is to buy them after they've gotten the crap beat out of them.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, it's a shit trade.
All right, I'm gonna go. I bought more Nvidia, so I bought 50 Nvidia, 50 of Meta. I think right now this has got a better chance here.
Okay, this CrowdStrike is pulling in. I want to know down here if I can find it for a bounce. So I want an alert on that. I'll leave that alone for now. Netflix is currently, it wants to work, it just won't finish the job.
Yeah, yeah,
So
like
this
most
might
of
be
this
one of
stuff.
those, the just the gaps might,
Yep.
like that's the trade might already be there.
Yeah.
Meta looks good though from a short. You look like you're going to catch this.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. You know, to me, if I like something, I start to just put in the size, but I don't like this tape at all. I really don't like it. But you know what's happening now is that your fat man names are trading independent of
Right.
the indexes here.
Yep.
So that's a very important piece of tape that most people don't, most people don't catch, is when a certain sector just starts to move by itself and it doesn't give a damn what the indexes are doing.
Yeah. And that's where I like to be. Am I missing out on any Tesla short? I mean, Netflix has already had a big move down. All right, so now Tesla, maybe I can start to work with it. Let me see if I can find some kind of spot.
Somebody just bought this week, so tomorrow, Friday, 212 and a half puts on Meta for $780,000.
Wow.
But then at the same time, you got Amazon calls for next week, so it's like, what the fuck?
I know. So that's the thing is it's the action in the sweeps don't necessarily offer you
Right,
any help right now.
right, right, right. You got both sides of this. Amazon, they're buying
So this Tesla I would look
next
for,
week's.
if I like short, this is kind of my spot. Um
Some somebody's coming in here and buying Schwab. Hilarious.
I don't think it's that bad
IBKR
long
had
term.
earnings. IBKR had earnings, I think, last night.
Are they done?
Yo, look at IBKR. Pull this thing up. They want some of these. They want this. They want this
Yeah.
shit, man. I think this KRE might actually fucking work out.
No, if you're in this for longer term, I would just hang around in this. I think this. this bottom is either in, or once you get through these regional bank earnings, you're going to find out. I don't think this is bad long term. I think this is over. I think this is way overdone.
Way overdone. Yeah, just like all the other ones here. But,
Yep.
you know, so I think maybe as more of the regional banks start reporting, maybe we get that off.
I might have to tap out of this Netflix again for the first time. I'm kind of hovering just around break even. So this is kind of the area that I'm saying, hey, if this thing's not going to break down here,
Right.
all right, I'm going to every time. See, that's the other thing too. This is my tricky balance is
Mm.
when I get these little spikes, am I just getting faked out?
Right. Right. Which so far has been a yes, but who knows? I mean, this
So
meta just
all right, let's take a
just
look at the
put,
meta.
put a spike on me.
Right. So let me ask you a question. When that happens, do you
Yep.
see anything in tape that's telling you you're getting faked out or not?
Yeah, yeah. You start to look at the overall character of everything and just how aggressive it is, and you start to
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself, all right, is this real buying or is this just a fucking program up? And to me, this is just a program up. But programs can obviously last longer than you can stay sane.
Yep.
Therefore, it's always prudent to just, if you don't, if I'm not feeling it, if then it's just not there. So
Yep.
from an options perspective, if the gain is not even worth me fucking around with it, just just let it go. See,
Yeah.
there's another program right back down. So we're just stuck in this stupid range right now. Meta just came right back down to lows. You know, so
Yep.
those are the kind of questions that I'll ask myself when I'm getting squeezed or sitting in a loss.
If I'm doing this, like right now, this is kind of like discovery trading on the day,
Yeah, that's what it is.
and
That's
there's
exactly what it
there's
is.
there's no edge as of yet.
Nope.
But what I've noticed is that the trades, the good trades, at least in recent memory, have been coming later in the
Yeah,
morning and
yeah,
not right away.
yeah, definitely,
Let me jump back over to Meta.
definitely. Right? So now the Nvidia, notice before it was it was going right back to highs, even
And now
though
it's not.
now it's just a different character. Does that mean we're going to get a flush? No, absolutely not. However, this character is at least different enough to wait and see. But assessing if there's even any juice at the end of the road, like if you do all this, that's super important as well because if you ain't going to make any money at the end of all of it, why even fucking bother? Right? So to me, it's like I'm looking for Meta to retrace the whole program from the morning, which is from off the open, which is not 274, 273 and a half, somewhere around there.
Yeah, these are
Or the Nvidia.
on these little pop-ups. If you reshorted, it's
Right.
one of those spots where you're looking at it. At least I am on the Netflix, and it's like, okay, I need this thing, and it never happens on your time. But I'm
Of
looking at this,
course.
and I'm like, I need this thing to break down now in this
Of
area.
course. Of course. That creates the friction, that creates the
Yeah.
desire, the fact that you don't like it anymore, and then when you don't like it anymore, your brain starts trying to throw it away. Meanwhile, this might just be a hold all day kind of scenario here, and we could still make the money like that. So you have to adapt strategies to what the tape is telling you. So look at this meta, just made another low, and market's not doing anything. It's a piece of shit, yeah, but it's working.
Exactly.
It's fucking working.
You probably get a test of the lows here again.
Right, which was the idea.
Yep.
And now if you're up some money, take some off. Like I'm up a couple
Yep.
grand here, so fuck it, I'll take a little bit off.
I got nothing on this Netflix. I'm just break even. Kissing the sister.
Um, Yeah, the Nvidia is caught. Just doing nothing here on
It's
two.
hung up. Yep.
And
See, I would
again,
look for Tesla to break down in this spot also,
yep, yep,
but we're not getting.
nope,
It doesn't matter what we want. There's this big
nope.
gap now, and like.
You know, so this kind of tape to me is always important. Like, look at Bank of America right now. After reporting great freaking earnings, now is the time where I'll cycle through things and start creating, theses, scenarios, and all that kind of stuff. You know, that Goldman Sachs and the more you saw the Morgan Stanley this morning,
No.
gaps down, trades all the way back up.
Ooh, okay.
Um,
Fills the gap.
yeah, and then I'll just start looking at names that I've been interested in. This Pinterest, I was gonna go super heavy long this Pinterest, and again at the highs every single time fakes people out. GME here just put in a squeeze, so this is the place where I'm thinking I'd like to add
You got a
on
gap
my
to fill,
short.
like to this 21 and a half area.
Yeah, so let's see how it
All
trades
right,
here.
so I'm out of this Netflix now.
Okay.
So small. So I'm 0 for 2. Small loss, small loss.
Yep. Nvidia looks like crap.
Then maybe I can go back to the Nvidia. I'm gonna take a look at this Boeing real quick, and I'm gonna evaluate an iron condor because I want to get that trade on, so I can start to collect some cash for next week. Let's take a look at this Boeing real quick. Next week I can get. I'm usually trying to get a couple of bucks out of this trade. So I got 220 to the upside, 197 and a half. 220, where's that at? So 220 puts me all the way up here, which is nice because that's the highs. What did I say, 197 and a half? That brings me down to this area, which is held in recent memory. And I can collect out of that trade. Let's call that a dollar 30. 195 is better. So I'm gonna put that iron condor on. So
Mhm.
that's a 220 by 195, 221.95. All right,
And
so I'm
that's
gonna get
for
that
this.
trade on
That's for this week,
next week. This is April 28th. What I like, the
April
reason I like
28th.
to do it this way on a Wednesday
Uh huh.
is because if I can get through the weekend
Yep.
and I don't get too much drama, that
Yeah.
iron condor, the fit, I'll collect at least 50% on that trade
By
by
Monday.
Monday.
By
Yep.
Monday. Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And the weekend decay is a beautiful thing. So,
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%.
yeah.
100%. This is what I used to do in 2019, 2018, and I made 2 million in 2019 without really working that hard.
Without
And
working
all I
hard.
did
Yeah.
was the condors. And then for some reason, the markets, obviously COVID happened, and then I just flipped back to wild trading
Because
versus,
why not?
you know, versus just, you know, versus just chilling and selling shit. All right, I'm gonna dump the Nvidia. I'm gonna dump the Meta. Neither one of these look good. Video going back to highs here. I still, of course, have plenty of the KRE. Hopefully that thing starts to work. That Nvidia is strong, man. That Nvidia is showing its colors now. Showing its colors.
Well, we did talk about if this stuff so much looked like short, and if it doesn't,
Yep,
good bounce trade.
yep,
So that was the move.
yep. That
I,
Tesla still looks meh. Netflix here is climbing back 323. Yeah. Overall, though, man, I am very meh about this action. But the shitty trading helps you easily recognize when something big happens, when the change happens. So the longer you stay like this, the easier it is to recognize when shit massively changes.
yeah. So and that's why I trade small until I can find
Right,
direction, at least from a
right,
scalp standpoint.
right,
Long term is a different scenario, and like Iron Condor is a different scenario as well.
right.
180. There you go.
But it's good. You guys got to know how to trade or not to trade. Shitty, shitty tape. Here's another fade of programs higher, right on cue. That Netflix man, 324. BBBY squeezing.
Is it? All right, let me jump
Yep,
over there.
BBBY squeezing.
I'm over here getting condors on. Oh yeah, look at that. I always back away from these types of names because you get too big of a crowd with
Yeah.
retail guys in there,
Oh
and
yeah.
I always have a tendency to get burned in those. So I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let other people trade that
It's a
garbage.
different it's a different type of world.
Yep.
Matt's here suggesting should we take some questions here,
Yeah, yeah,
folks.
yeah.
By the way, take a look at some of the latest flow here. Meta calls, Google calls, Google calls, all for this week. It's very interesting.
Let me take a look at that.
Very
Oh yeah.
interesting.
Oh yeah. And
So the
where
more they
are
start buying the fat man here, the more I would imagine
earnings on
market slowly
Google
comes back.
next Tuesday? All right, I'm gonna try and get filled on this Iron Condor on Boeing at 220, and the market maker usually doesn't like to give that up, but we'll see what happens. All right, do you want to take some questions?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
All right.
definitely. Looks like Adam is saying, Ron, are you able to confidently retape on TOS with their limited level two?
Yeah, so it's that's a good question, and it's similar to what Lucci just talked about. I'm not great at really dialing in on line by line. What I'm looking for is, can I get the feel of what the tape is telling me? Is it
Right,
telling me at an area if I have an advantage? And there are times like this morning where I'm trying to find an edge, and if I think I have one and I place a trade and it's not there, I just go back and I say, okay, what did I miss something? Does it look different? Do I have an opportunity to just kind of reevaluate? So um, I, unlike Lucci, can't focus on line by line. I'm looking for an overall. Do I have um, like the feel of the tape appropriate? Which is why I use some of these levels to get me in and out, right? So I don't have it right this morning on Netflix. I don't have a good read, and yeah, it is somewhat limited, but it gives me the feel that I need for a trade, right? So that's how I look at it on toss. But yeah,
got it.
with fidelity's better, right? And what are you using right now, Lucci, for tape?
I use Centerpoint. I use Centerpoint, so I get the level twos from the direct market access. So it pretty much looks like Sterling DAS. That's what I use.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. What do we get? What's your take on TLT? Somebody asked you about Volman here. Was saying why the Iron Condors launch on this VIX regime versus range bound double diagonal still positive data. Good God. What the
What?
fuck did he just say?
I don't know. I think we just learned how to build a fucking time machine.
Jesus. Oh man, what the fuck are you talking about?
You see, that's the kind of thought process that, from a like a fundamental or a long term standpoint, I'm not capable of. There are far smarter people than me. Here's how I look at an Iron Condor on Boeing. It's in the middle of a range, right?
Right,
If
that's it.
if
That's
it
all
moves
you thought it
higher
through.
or lower, I can convert the short legs of the Condor and catch direction.
Right,
I don't need to make it any more complicated than that.
right,
I don't
exactly.
give a flying rat's ass about the VIX other than to say, oh, okay, is SPY premium for crash protection at a cheap point? That's what VIX tells. VIX is a gauge on the dashboard. That's it.
Right.
If you try to interpret VIX, you might drive yourself insane.
Okay, what are the questions we got?
Now you got to look at this as a gap
Mr.
fill.
Jacob is saying, would you ever put Fat Man Signal on your site? Who
No.
knows, man? Who knows? We may make our own. We may do all kinds of things, man. But I would get into the steam room and use some of the tools that we already got. Um, we're slowly kind of just working on new tools. Um, what other questions we got? Yeah, ask away, guys. We'll stick around here for a little bit more. JD is saying, is this a market newbies should just sit out? No, there's never a market newbies should
Never,
just
right?
sit out. There's never a market. In fact, newbies have an advantage to me sometimes. You know, sometimes they're able to come into a clean market without having the history behind them that holds them back. Um, so sometimes the newbies are able to figure out a new regime and a new market faster than the older guys because they're able to just see the market for what it is. They're not hoping for a return of some previous type of market. So there's never a point where um, if you're a complete noob though and you don't even know what the fuck you're doing, then it's another that is another situation. You know, I went ahead and added small on GME, BBBY, and all this stuff. The meta here is starting to sell back down. These buyers though on BBBY keep coming back. They keep coming back. So there's definitely some activity going on in these things. See,
So
you see this
Lucci on
Nvidia?
these. No, let's see. It's is it going to fill the gap?
It's just eventually
Oh, it did.
this thing's probably gonna come in, but right now it's just trash tape. The meta here is the weaker one out of the pack.
Yeah, you found the crease on Meta for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't outside of this condor, I'm 0 for 2 on the trades. I didn't get anything that I was looking for, and what happened? They kind of took it away with the gap. So now you have to sit here and look at like this Netflix and consider if you didn't catch it for bounce already, you have to sit here and consider can this thing can it fill the gap? If it can, I mean, that's a nice juicy trade.
Yeah.
But this is also the spot where you could see fade because why? It's right back to where it opened. So
Yep.
I don't have an edge. There's nothing here compelling size wise
Yeah.
that's telling me I need to be there.
Yep. Yep. I think we slowly melt up here. Where's the SPY's only down 10. SPY's only down a point and a half, man, which is not a big deal at all. Which is not a big deal at all.
And that's got a gap to fill.
Okay, let's take one more question and then let's
Wrap it up.
let's cut it off.
Yep.
Arts here is saying how important are market cycles in confirming your thesis. Ronchero, you want to take that one?
I mean, I don't know that a quote unquote cycle is relevant. I think it's more what's happening. Um, you again, it's the same thing. You're trying to mix a fundamental long term, quote unquote economic thought. And are you applying it to a long term trade, or you what kind of trade? You know what I mean? It all comes back to time frame. So that question is, in my opinion, more of a long term type of view, which you try to balance a little bit of long term trading. And I'm kind of already in a long term trade, so I don't think about all of these other bigger picture dynamics other than to say something simple like, hey, you had insiders buying, you had a gap fill. I think it has more opportunity to the upside. Why? Because I'd like to just generally be more optimistic as opposed to negative. But as the trader in me looks at this and says, you've had a big run, it's time for it would be normal for it to pull back. I don't make it any more complicated than that picture. So cycles, how what are you talking about? Like what cycles? You know what I
Right,
mean? Like
right.
this isn't cyclical. That's the, you had okay. If you want to say cycle, you had a what freaking 20 years up. and you're finally getting a market that cools off. Like, is that a cycle? I don't know.
um,
What do you think about that? I'm like,
I
whatever.
mean,
Like, trade the
it's like
action.
you never know what somebody's talking about. You know what I mean? Because what he's saying is a frame of mind that only he can understand. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and then it's like, what's the timing of those cycles? Is he
Right.
talking about a month cycle? Is he talking about a year cycle? The hell, you know what I mean? It's like asking somebody politics and all that kind of stuff. Let's take another one. Tobias is saying, how does impending stop loss hunt look on the tape? So, what does a stop loss hunt look on the tape? Um, it kind of looks similar to short squeezes on these small cap stuff. That's similar to what it looks like. So, for example, Tesla 200. I don't know if you remember that day that Tesla broke $200, and it did it just that one day. I think it was like a week ago or something like that. It was March 31st, right? So that day we broke 200, and the thing just went straight to 207, and so many people, were just got stopped out of that trade right there, that it was just clean move higher, because everybody that was short had to move their bids up to get out, or just go market to get the fuck out. So, you can see that in the tape. You can read that in the tape. Um, Tobias here is saying, is reading tape more like being a mediator in family court or a seismometer for earthquakes? It's a good one. I like that, man. I like that. I like that a
I got
lot.
these guys in my room busting my chops. They're saying we're too serious this morning. I'm like, well, dude, it's freaking. I'm up at 5:30 Pacific time. Like, that's
Yeah.
fucking early.
That and it's dead action, man. It's
And it's
fucking
dead action. I
just
know. I'm like, what do you
dead
want me to
action,
say?
man. It's just
Here's
dead
some
action.
Netflix calls coming in.
Yeah.
3:30s. So
Yeah.
they're looking for gap fill.
Right. Right. And that's for this week? Jeez, that's for this week too. Wow. Impressive.
Okay, fine. Like, does that give me a clue?
Yeah, I got nothing here. All right,
Zach
let's
telling me to be a man. You ready to
let's
wrap up, Lucci?
yeah, let's wrap this up. Ronchero, what's your part in the master course here for everybody to know that's just hanging out here?
I'm gonna be teaching introduction to options. Let's take a look at what the projected schedule is, so you guys
Yeah,
can take a look here. So where I start to jump in is option basics. I'll go through options, and then I'll go through the fundamentals of trading the post, which is how I approach things from a long-term standpoint. And then, of course, you work it back in time frames. What I like about this is I can pretty much make this work on any time frame. I like it for long term. You'll learn the fundamentals of that and how we do that. We'll do a Q&A, then we'll do some live trading on trading the post, and we'll go through iron condors and morphing. So I've got like this big chunk in the middle from the beginning of May until like the second week. So I'm going to go over options and then strategy within what I do, and then you'll jump back in with Jesus, and then Lucci, you'll get into your strategy and writing piece as well.
yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. We tie
my
it all in
portion's
together.
coming up.
So, and again, Ronchero, I've always looked up to the guy because he's been able to find a way to take the difficulty of timing out of the equation on options. And it's not taking it out of the equation, it's just using it to your advantage. So for example, like if I hunt for major breakouts and major breakdowns in everything. So we do technically the same thing more or less. But the difference is that he's able to look at it from a much longer time frame, and he's able to not care about when the break happens. So, for example, let's just take a look at this BA, right? Let's say you want to get a short breakdown on this. Let's say you want to bet for this thing to go to 180. You know, you don't have an idea on when. And every time it's gotten down to 200 and 190, and you tried to short, which is most people, right? Most people are going to
Yes.
sit there and try to short at the lows. That's most people right there. Every single time you've done that, and you will do that, it's going to take six, seven, eight, sometimes even 20 times to get it right. And if you're an options trader and you pack up and pile on those losses at those highs of the ranges and the lows of the ranges, you're gonna blow up that account. You're gonna blow. You're not gonna be able to make enough to cover all your losses and then some. So what Ronchero has done over over decades here of refining, taking losses, and all this kind of stuff, has just kind of given himself the ability to take that shot, but pay for that shot through writing and also advanced ways to hedge. And that way you don't care. And that way, if it comes around, which you know it's going to come around eventually, you get the icing on the cake, but you've already paid for it in other ways. And you're not racking up freaking losses like most retail traders will do because they want to they want to short the lows of these ranges, they want to buy the highs of these ranges. Eventually you're going to get it right. But if you've lost all your capital by the time you get it right, what the fuck good is it? What good is it? So you got to learn. You got to advance your game here. So Ranchero is going to bring all those tools to you, and we're lucky to have him. So
Yeah, and you
thanks,
guys
man.
are I think it's like a hey, who are you, right? Do you already know who you are coming into this? Like, I don't know, can you trade an iron condor? Lucci, I think that you would not have the patience to trade a condor, right? And I don't mean that like in a negative way. I mean it in hey,
Yeah,
is
I've
that does that fit your style? If it
it's right,
doesn't, that's okay.
right. Right, right. I've done it so many times before, and I just go into these cycles where I stop doing it, I start doing it, I stop doing it. And just like you're saying, where are you? Who are you as a trader? What are you motivated by? What are your desires? And these all things add up to who you are as a trader.
Yep.
So, we'll talk about all that stuff in the master course. We want you guys to be independent and make career traders out of you guys. So that's why we spend so much time on the content in here and
Here to
make sure
teach
we give
you
you the
how
tools.
to fish, not a system, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. Ronchero, thanks, man.
Yep, thank
And
you.
we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Peace.